people with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Dan wasn't able to be here tonight. He asked me if I would run the meeting, so you're more or less stuck with me. Minutes of the 11/4 board meeting. Do we hear a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any corrections, deletions, additions?
The motion is to approve them as corrected, is that the?
I don't know what the corrections are.
Oh, I thought I'd said that to you.
You did, I just didn't.
Okay,
Sorry.
when I had talked to Bob Benkovich today about the way I worded about the permit for the tower, for the
Okay,
generator, he suggested that I changed it to, it was stated that the proper paperwork was filed for a permit to put a generator at the tower by the American Tower Corporation, but there was no follow-up.
okay.
So I changed the wording on that as per last time I said it was not filed, but it was.
At the top of that page, talks about pumps and generators. Should be were, not we,
Okay,
not a big deal.
okay.
And then I just have a question, Randy. On that, you reported about the money that the drivers could receive. And it
Big
said-
road.
Yeah, and it said that would be tax-free. Is that state and federal or just state?
No. Not tax-free.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said it was tax-free.
No, they would have to take income tax
They
out.
would, they would have to
of
pay
that.
taxes.
Okay.
They
Okay,
have to pay taxes
okay,
on that.
that made more sense to me.
Oh, I thought you had said tax-free also.
I hope I didn't.
The guys were hoping you did.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
And you were right. Okay. Anything else on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment? Okay, move on to reading highway.
Okay. I guess we'll start right off with the replacement of 212. In the previous budget meeting, special meeting, I should say, I was given permission to go ahead and order a replacement for our 2009 truck that we sold on Auctions International. In doing so, I bringing a resolution to this meeting to get it all approved and so on and so forth. So I have a resolution prepared by Debbie in front of me. At a meeting at Town of Lake Pleasant Budget Committee held on November 12th, 2019, the committee agreed to purchase a Ram 3500 dump truck, which is a 2020. Whereas the Town of Lake Pleasant Budget Committee has approved Superintendent Lavarnway to purchase a Ram 3500 dump truck from Robert Green Auto and Truck Incorporated, P.O. Box 8002, Rock Hill, New York 12775. Whereas the cost of the Ram is $59,455.50, piggybacked on the Onondaga statewide contract. Whereas this resolution will be entered into the town clerk's minutes on November 18th, 2019 at the town board meeting. At the time, moved by councilperson Christine Meixner, seconded by Rob Peck. All in favor, no nays. So now I would like to get a resolution
I
to,
thought you were getting the GMC 5500 because that could come in 2 weeks.
no, because that was $10,000 more.
Right,
So we
so you
opted
decided
not.
you'd rather wait?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna be 45 days for the.
right. Okay.
Which should be about Christmas time, and then if you remember right, I said hopefully we don't have any more catastrophes between now and then. So, I believe that's what it was said.
So we need a motion on that resolution.
Correct.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Chris, second by Mike. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we gave me permission to order a sander, that came in today. Has to be assembled and put on a pickup truck. Probably be not tomorrow, maybe tomorrow afternoon, but. Roads, they are okay at best. People have noticed that most of the cones in the town roads are down. There's still a lot of gravel showing, and the gravel is going to sink. Hopefully after, not too much of it get plowed off, but we will be filling them in as the winter goes on. I have a meeting tomorrow with DEC about some bridges. I have a meeting on Wednesday for culverts that may or may not be undersized that we're going to try to get rectified through this storm monies. I have possibly sometime this week meeting with State Emergency Management and
FEMA
FEMA?
and DHS, yes.
yes. They're starting tomorrow, no, Wednesday in Hope, and working their way up to go visit all these lovely sites, so how long that takes, I don't know. I still haven't been confirmed that this is going to meet all their criteria to get reimbursed to 75%, but I have a good feeling that everybody's speaking of that, so we're in high hopes. That being said, I need the board, I guess, to be aware of some of the expenses that we have spent, which were not in this budget. Right now, we're just under $20,000 in gravel, that we just bought. Never mind the stockpile that was completely depleted that I had in the back. We have rental equipment somewhere around $5,000 to $6,000. We have extra insurance bills. I don't know the exact amounts for those rental equipment.
It's almost like $600 and some odd dollars.
Yeah. So probably $1,000 somewhere in there total. The bills are just starting to come in now, and maybe Nancy can lead me if I'm wrong. I assign these to the regular budget items, and when they quote unquote bounce, we'll take it from, the board will figure out where they're gonna take it from,
Probably fund balance,
fund balance or such.
I would think.
Yeah, we can't do supervisor wages and no.
No, but just so that you guys are aware of some of the money that has been, that's not including culverts or anything else, that's,
So then you're talking 30,000 plus minimum.
yeah, minimum right now. That we're at,
Well, labor,
or labor, that's not involved in this. This
Not
is
no-
just,
Not the overtime.
not all the overtime, any of that, this is just physical items that we've purchased to get
No,
to
no,
where
but I
we
mean,
are
for the
now.
reimbursement, I believe we,
Oh yeah, everything will be included in that, but I'm just saying what's not gonna make this balance, this budget balance at the end of the year. This is where we're looking at right now. On to, I guess, even worse scenario is the snowmobile trails. We have lost, to date that I know of, 12 different bridges. Most of them are just gotta be either reset, brought back to in place and so on. We have lost the culvert that goes for Fly, or, yeah, not Fly Creek. Fish hatchery. That is a 10-foot squash culvert, 30-foot long. That is 1,500 to 2,000 feet downstream and destroyed. DEC has, where it used to be is now 30 feet across at the stream bed. Never mind the 8 to 10 foot hole that it created in height. We are building, in the process of building out of old bridge material at the town, a snowmobile bridge to cross it. And I say snowmobile bridge because it's not gonna be for lime timbers, log trucks and so on and so forth. If they deem they wanna get vehicles across it, they're gonna have to replace it with something. I don't feel it's should be on our expense to build something up to, highway traffic or snowmobile trail.
Correct.
They have offered some very much smaller culverts and such, but, just the amount of work and everything else is just gonna wash out again. A 5-foot culvert's not gonna go where a 10-foot was.
Would Parks and Rec or DEC help at all with
So
this?
DEC is going to supply all the wood material for this bridge.
Good.
They've gotten the okay from Raybrook for the purchase order, so how long it takes from there, I don't know, hopefully this week. We should be, it's not the entire expense, but we have probably $1,000 invested getting ready for that part of it. That's the biggest washout that we have. Mossy Fly Bridge, which we all know is the bridge that led to a swamp, has been relocated. It's a floating bridge with anchors, and it's not where it's supposed to be anymore. It's close. We're going to assess that, 92 feet. We're going to assess that later on, see if we can get it back to where it originally was, or if we have to rework the ramps to where it is now. Didn't move far, but nothing lines up. Some of the other state trails with the wind, they've been cutting and cutting and cutting and still haven't gotten halfway through. It's a mess. One good note is they've cleared Fawn Lake and Big Brook completely, and it only took 2 days to do that, so. That's the farthest out there, and all the bridges are back where they need to be.
And who's doing that?
Our Parks and Rec crew, which is Dan, Matt, well, on that was Dan, Matt, and, yeah.
Charlie?
No, well, Trevor was on it today,
Lynn?
Lynn, yes. So, they, are working on the Mason Lake Trail now.
So are we able to do all the snowmobile without, trail work without overtime?
Correct. Yeah. It's
That's
just
good.
an ongoing event. I think this tomorrow, or Wednesday's 8 o'clock meeting with DEC, I do believe it is. I am going to look at another bridge in the tree farm that may or may not be repairable this year. Lime Timber has closed it to vehicle right now, and we wanna see if snowmobiles can cross it. One of the abutments is washed out, so we wanna see if it's,
Is that a Conjumuk crossing?
yes. The old steel iron bridge,
Okay.
going over to, from the village road over. So we're gonna look at that. If that's severed, and we'll still be able to access through Cave Hill Road
Okay.
to get into the village, so the trail system still will be, open. I received the parking lot permit for Fish Hatchery. Not exactly what I originally put in for, but that parking lot is in the process of getting expanded, and we'll be working on it more next summer, but, that mound of dirt will be gone for the winter. So that's the key.
So does it become a hill?
No, it's going to be flat. We donated some of it to DOT for some of their, road work. They need compactable, vegetation, soil, or,
Oh, really?
some of their washouts, so I donated some of that to them also. It went down Route 8. But I think they told me 15 truckloads, I don't know exactly how many they took. So either way, that parking lot will be expanded and we'll work on it more next summer when we get more fill. So, that's it.
Thank you, Randy. Not all bad news. but-
Nope, not all bad news, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So obviously, we're gonna have some things to work through.
Yep.
Old business, the mean high water mark is established 11/16, 175 Golf Course Road. I've seen nothing, so I don't know what that means. It was in
I
the-
think just take it
He was
out.
gonna do it the weekend of November 2nd or 3rd. And then, of course, that was the Halloween storm weekend.
Well, it'd be a good time to do
So
it.
then he was going to. Yeah, you would
Probably it's never gonna be any higher.
That's right. And then he was gonna do it this past Saturday and said the water was still too high, I guess. So, that's all I know.
That's what we were trying to establish. Okay,
I know, it's like the high water mark is at the
So you gotta
road,
wait
right?
to go to
Yeah,
it
golf
down.
course road would
Let's
be
get
high
the
water mark.
mean high water
Yeah,
mark.
exactly.
that's okay. If that's where it is, that's where it is. Anything else under old business?
Randy, is the state bringing in more stone or is what they brought it?
I have not asked for more. I am waiting, I don't have enough to fix next spring's mess.
Right.
But, I have a pile there that will get me through the winter fixing and repairing and so on and so forth. I have asked for trucks to, if the weather breaks, to start hauling some of it into Perkins Clearing to get the road more accessible for springtime, but at this point in time, one lane is open, so if it melts off, then I'll get the trucks, see if I can get trucks to haul it in there. Our trucks are suited up for winter and that's pretty much the way they're gonna stay. Unless it really spring breaks early.
You wanna do this? That's your resolution from last spring. Accept it, I just updated it for this winter.
They're not done.
Because we said we were gonna discuss the sanding of driveways at this
Right,
meeting.
yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, it wasn't on there. I guess, sure.
So, we wanna revisit the readiness of emergency sanding of driveways.
And we have Nancy's resolution here.
Well, Chris apparently updated my resolution of last year.
Yeah, I'll just give you a read.
Okay.
I couldn't see any point in starting over.
No. Resolution number blank of 2019, authorizing the superintendent of highways when the town supervisor declares an ice emergency or deputy town supervisor in the absence of the supervisor to sand the private driveways of those who call to be on the winter of 2019-2020 list with today's date. Whereas any delay in the ambulance corps or fire department responding to an emergency due to ice on private driveways when emergency services dispatch has to contact the highway superintendent to get a man and truck to sand the driveway of a patient or a burning home is potentially deadly. And whereas according to the US Census Bureau, 96 residents in 63 households, we get probably more now, in the town of Lake Pleasant are over the age of 65. Whereas a number of the winter residents of the town of Lake Pleasant are on fixed incomes or work at low paying positions, making it difficult to pay for multiple sandings of their driveways by private contractors. And whereas the sanding of private driveways in the event of an ice emergency has been the practice of the town of Lake Pleasant, therefore, be it resolved, residents of the town outside the village of Speculator who want their driveway sanded in an ice emergency must fill out a waiver to be put on the list. Waivers are available at the town clerk's office between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Mondays through Fridays, excluding holidays. And be it also resolved that after the town supervisor or the absence of, or in his absence, the deputy town supervisor, or in their absence, the town clerk declares, the town clerk?
Yeah, that's the third one on the list.
Wow, declares an ice emergency, the superintendent of highways will have the private driveways of those who are on the list for the winter of 2019-2020 sanded, as it has been practiced in the past, at the earliest availability of man and machine from the town of Lake Pleasant Highway Department. I'll move that resolution again.
So we have a motion that is moved by Nancy. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mike. Discussion?
Just one question, when you say in the absence of, so, Randy would contact the supervisor, then the deputy supervisor, to say that, or
Well, the person would contact the supervisor, and then I assume the supervisor would.
because the supervisor is supposed to be the one that's declaring the ice emergency, is that correct? Okay,
And if he's not available, the deputy
Deputy.
supervisor.
and,
And then according to town law, if he's not available, you.
okay, well, in the past, it's been Randy and I, unfortunately, just making these decisions on our own, because we haven't
Right.
had anybody else to speak with, so, okay.
Well, I know Dan's always talked to Randy about it.
He usually, when it's an icy situation, if, you know, he seconds his thoughts on, you know, calls me and, you know, we go from there. And if it's, the weather is going to break soon or not, then, you know, he decides or not. You know. And, as we know, when it's an ice storm, my guys have been out for a long time, so.
Yep. So, yeah, that's understood. So if it doesn't happen until Tuesday or Thursday.
Right, and it does say at their earliest
Right.
Yeah.
availability.
And this is the time to make changes if anyone wants something changed.
So, when people call, we just advise them to call Dan if they feel that they need their driveway sanded, and if he hasn't declared it, I relay them to Dan, so.
Exactly.
There you go.
At your choice.
Right, till that decision's made, it's not.
Right.
Yep. Questions, comments? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, resolution passed for the truck. We already did that under Randy's stuff.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Moving right
It's
along.
done.
It's done.
Let's see, so we took care of that. Took care of that. Anything else under old business? If not, we'll move on to new business. Adoption of the 2020 budget, which has been handed out. We had our final go-around on the budget last Tuesday. Made some minor changes, looking for places to save. I don't know what the final result was. Don't think we saved a tremendous amount of money. From our last week.
From last week's meeting?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Relatively,
Pretty much a walk.
Yeah, pretty much insignificant, some up, some down.
There are a couple of things that, the chamber, you included that 2,500. I don't think we agreed on that. I think that was brought up, like suggested.
You got my email from last Thursday night? You got my email from last Thursday?
I don't know,
night
I've gotten emails from you, I
addressing
don't,
that?
that I can recall addressing.
I sent out an email to each board member
Yeah,
reiterating the changes that we had discussed on Tuesday. And I indicated, after talking with Chris, I believe it was on Thursday morning, we had talked about the 2,500 for the chamber. But I didn't have it in my notes, Chris didn't have it in her notes, about whether the $2,500 was approved. In some of those meetings, we start something and
Right,
yeah.
we drift off.
okay, yes, I do remember getting that, but I don't believe it was
So I asked
approved.
in the email if that was okay with the board. Or if it wasn't okay, please voice your opinions to me so I could make the change. And I heard back from nobody. So,
Well, I'm voicing it now. I think that 2,500 is a big jump. I think 1,000 would be more realistic. I think they've made strides, and I would like to see that keep going and keep rewarding them with, you know, year to year. That's just my opinion.
well, I'm not in a position to negotiate.
No, I'm answering you now. And the other thing, I did call the comptroller's office about moving money from the general fund to DA. It is perfectly legal and done, same tax base. However, there needs to be an expenditure in the general fund. I just heard from them late today. There has to be an expenditure placed as a counter to the revenue in the DA fund. And, which would be interfund transfer as an expenditure, and I have the number, it's A9901, would be $100,000 would be put in that, and then the 100,000 as a revenue in DA, which you already have, but you don't have the other part of the transfer.
Why
So,
would it be an expenditure?
that's what I was told,
Well, then that would affect the tax levy.
right,
It's a
exactly.
budget transfer.
Yeah,
Just-
so you have to have two sides to it, you can't just
Yeah,
say,
You have cash coming out of A fund. Okay, and then you have revenue going into DA fund.
yeah, but it isn't quite that easy with municipal. That's what the, you know, the comptroller's office told me today.
You understand, if you put an expenditure in A fund, then you must raise the tax levy in A fund.
Exactly, that's
Which is-
why it's kind of,
Makes no sense.
well, maybe we should just use the $100,000 to reduce the taxes and put it on the A line instead of artificially raising the money in DA and then using
We're not
that.
artificially raising the money in DA, we're trying to balance the funds as they relate to their individual appropriation amount.
I understand what you're trying to
DA
do, but I think it should be more transparent to the taxpayers that DA perhaps is using more of the funds and general is being a little bit more frugal with their lines and,
Well, you monitor this every month. You
Right.
certainly know this is happening, correct?
correct,
Yeah,
So at the end of 2019, when we get to the end of the year, you're gonna see the DA is significantly less than what it probably ought to be.
well, I'm just telling you what I learned, because I did learn something from this. I thought that it had to be paid back with interest, that's only if it's
Alone.
a loan, but there are lines for that, to do a loan between funds. but this is just a transfer. So I do understand that part now, but I was told that it has to have a matching expense in the general fund. And I don't know what else to say, that's what I was told.
It's right in town law, it's just a transfer. So,
It is, but you have to show both sides
yeah,
of the
it's gonna have to
transfer.
be shown somewhere.
Right, exactly. It's just not cash. You can't just move cash. It's not,
It is cash that we're moving.
yeah, but you have to show that someplace in the workings of the books. It's different.
Not in the budget, maybe in the books, but not the budget.
Well, then I think you have to take it out of the other, well, that's what I was told late today, so. Don't blame the messenger.
So what is what's the ramification if we make that a loan rather than a transfer?
You don't wanna make a loan.
Then you have to pay it back within a year with interest.
So.
Because I did ask her that also, you know,
Yeah,
that was.
the options appear to be, if we're gonna do it according to the controller's office, that has to be done that way. But that bothers the budget officers. So why don't you contact audit and control? And see what
I'm
they tell
satisfied
you.
with what I did is correct.
Okay,
I stand with what I did, I stand with it.
okay. That's interesting.
Well, I
Well,
don't
he
think I
researched
could
it before
vote
he
to
did.
adopt the budget if I feel that it's incorrect. That's, and I'll have to stand by that.
Okay. So where do we go from here?
As I understand it, we're not moving the money until after the first of the year, is that correct?
That is my recommendation.
Right,
You
so
move
we
it.
adopt the budget
You move
and
it in 2020.
that
But it
gives
has-
Nancy more time to research this to her satisfaction.
Oh, I've researched it. I've spoke to her for 15, 20 minutes today about it and explained what was here, and she said that it needed to be an expense line. It has to be, first of all, if you put this in the AUD, it would bounce it back because there's no, in municipal accounting, there's two sides to everything you do. You have to have money or debit coming from someplace and a credit. In this case, you have to have an expense and a revenue. Or that's what I was told, so.
So you can't do cash to cash is the bottom line.
Yeah, because, well, the account wouldn't balance.
So. Well, the options are we don't adopt the budget, which according to law, we have to do that.
The drop dead date is November 20th, I believe. 48 hours.
So we have 48 hours to make a decision. But can we have a meeting within 48 hours? It's still legally do that?
I don't understand why we can't adopt the budget as it is. It doesn't show that transfer in it.
Yeah, it does. It shows it as a revenue in the DA section.
As an interfund transfer.
Yep. Line DA 3501.
$503.
the offset to the inter-fund transfer is the reduction of the tax levy, that's the other half of the increase.
Do you have a line for the reduction of the tax levy?
By default,
November 20th is when we have to have it adopted. It says that the final budget must be adopted no later than November 20th.
if you increase revenue in any of the funds, by default, you reduce the tax levy.
Right, well, you could just
The tax levy doesn't have a line though.
right.
Sure it does.
Well, what's the number?
It's the very first line on each.
1001, but you're not using that to increase it. And the other way we could do it is just do it straightforward, and take the 100,000 from general and put that in to reduce the taxes, and it's take the other revenue
What
out
fund
of
would you
DA.
apply that to? The A fund?
Take it from A to reduce the taxes, just amount, if it's the amount that we don't have to raise the taxes by is 100,000, there's that excess in general. By doing it the way you were doing it, you are moving that 100,000 to DA and then using it to reduce the taxes in DA. Right, so instead of going kind of roundabout, we can just reduce the taxes on the general fund line,
That's what I asked. You would reduce the A fund tax levy?
yeah, by 100,000, and it would still be under the tax cap.
So how do we beef up the DA fund?
I don't know. Maybe the
Can't do
DA
it.
fund has to stop spending so much, I don't know.
Governments transfer money all the time.
Okay, but you have to do it the proper way, did you find that in
I
there?
did, thank you. We know that DA is gonna take a big hit because of the flooding,
It should be DB.
That'd be
or
DB.
DB. Oh, that's right,
DA's wintertime stuff,
it's all, okay.
snow plowing.
DA's fund balance presently is about 8% of appropriations.
Which is also,
Really not acceptable.
And Fund A is 31%,
Correct,
it's way out of line.
correct.
So
So
if
we
we-
need to balance, we need to reduce the A fund, and we need to beef up the DA fund.
so may I
So
speak?
we write a check from A and we give it to DA.
So,
But you have to show it on your books. You can't just say, I'm moving money from A to DA, because wouldn't life be interesting that way? Easier, much easier.
Well, isn't there gonna be a general fund A line to mirror this, you're saying?
Yeah,
It would be A 5031 interfund transfer, but it would be under expenses,
no,
not
it would
revenues?
be A 9901, which isn't in the budget, which would be, that's what she said, I wrote it down, 100,000 matching expense in A 9901, which we do not have, because we haven't done this. What were you gonna say, Randy?
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand what Mark's trying to do, is getting the 20%, the golden level of
Yeah.
20% fund balance on everything. I also understand Nancy's end of this. If we do the 100,000 out of the A fund, it drops that 30% or 31 or whatever, I don't have it in front of me, down a certain percentage, which gets it back closer to the 20%. So that half of the picture will be correct, or more correct. Then, next year, we have to figure out how to get the fund balance up on the 20, on the DA line, if we wanna get it back up towards the 20. What happens between now and then, in my mind, is if we go over on anything, we don't have that 20%
Cushion.
cushion. Worst case scenario in the DA line is we lose a truck. let's face it, it's $250,000 right now. We lose the truck, it's gonna be an insurance claim. It's gonna take time for that to get processed. Is there a way that in emergency funding, we can move money from there to cover that? Cause that's, the DA line, that's pretty much the biggest issue we could possibly have.
We can, but we would have to do it the way
Right.
it's prescribed by,
Later on,
right?
if it happens, but that'll give us, well, I'm trying to get out of tonight's scenario. That'll give us time to figure out how to bring DA's line up. The fund balance. It will reduce DA's fund balance by, and it will keep the tax percentages on the whole budget lower. For this scenario, right now. I know it's not what Mark wants, everything done right now, which is usually where I am. But we can work, get the A-line percentages down, keep the budget down. In our minds, figure out how we're gonna get the DA fund balance up. Which is
And
either
it-
less spending or more money in.
It gives a more honest picture of where our budgeting is also, because I know in the past, we've used DA quite a bit,
For
fund
trucks and
balance.
so on and so forth.
Well, not only that, but we used it to reduce taxes in the DA line quite a bit. And perhaps to, maybe a little too much.
Right.
So could somebody summarize that for the old dumb guys?
Taking $100,000 out of the A-line
To
to
reduce
reduce
taxes.
taxes,
Reduce taxes, okay, which is what,
Yeah.
then make a mental note that we need to bring up DA's fund balance somehow. And there's only two different ways. Don't spend as much, put more in.
right,
That's-
but you're talking
Two
a
ways
year
to do
from
it.
now.
Right.
More in.
Right. And work on don't spend so much, but
Okay, is that agreeable?
Well, and
Is
it
that
makes it
agreeable?
more transparent too.
So just explain to me, because I'm quite
Well,
understand.
you got white hair too, don't you? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said, you and I got white hair on that one.
Okay, instead of funding, remove the line
From the DA,
from the DA,
the inter-fund transfer.
right, for 100,000, and you just reduce the taxes from the A line instead of the DA line.
How do we reduce the taxes from the A line?
You just don't charge as much in taxes.
reappropriate fund balance too.
Right.
So if I have, for example, I have $100 of appropriations in the A fund, okay, which let's say calls for $100 with the tax levy, you want to reduce that to $90. You want to reduce the tax, we'll say by $10 instead of $100,000.
Right.
Okay.
So the same way you have it on here, but you have it on DA, you move it to A, and it's your raising,
What do
move
we-
your little typing here, up to A, from DA to A.
Can't see that, I'm sorry.
That's all, you're reducing the taxes on,
If we
I'm
take
asking how.
100,000 and apply it toward
appropriating fund
reducing the
balance
tax
in the revenue
levy,
line of
that
A.
means the tax levy will be going up by $35,000. That means we just took $100,000 out of our budget. So
No,
we
it
have to cut
doesn't.
it somewhere.
we're taking it from fund balance, from A's
How do,
fund balance.
I understand what you're saying, we take it from fund balance, how do you show that in the budget preparation?
It goes into that line that says appropriated fund balance, that you asked how it gets transferred over.
So when you appropriate a fund balance, you must have you should have a specific designation for how you want to spend that money. Because that's why it's called appropriated fund balance. So you have to make a decision on that 100,000, how do you want that spent? And what lines you want to spend that against?
For forever, we've used fund balance to reduce the amount raised by taxes.
I understand that, But the philosophy behind appropriated fund balance,
Okay, so maybe it's called something else. I'm just telling you, we take some money out of fund balance instead of taking it from the taxpayers. We use money that we already have
which is
instead
what
of
we're
raising
doing, which is what we're
taxes.
doing.
Does anybody else want to add to this? I'm
I
feeling
would
a
love to if
tad
I thought
badgered.
I could.
Well, don't feel badgered, we're all just trying to wrap our minds around this.
Well, it's the same thing like you just have here. Instead of raising the tax levy for this year, it would be $791 for general. And then it would be the 100,000 here. And then the revenues in highway would be less. No, actually, it wouldn't be, because, see, you have this different than we always used to do this, so that's, because you didn't add the 100,000 in there as a revenue, because I did the math. In DA, you only had 120 for DA, instead of 220, which would add that as a revenue.
For revenues, you mean?
So that wasn't even added in as a revenue, even though you had it in the budget as a revenue.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at?
Just looking at the,
Summary of all
Looking at
funds.
the
Your
2000
summary,
summary all funds, which shows the amount to reduce taxes.
I wish I knew what happened to your email.
I just looked and I don't have it on my phone.
I sent you an email and you said if you told me you'd have to kill me while what you were doing. And I read it and it still didn't make sense and I told you I was gonna call the comptroller, which I did.
So you're looking at the 2020 summary of all funds?
See where you have amount to reduce taxes, $100,000 for DA?
Correct.
So you just move that up to general and change the figures.
Oh, you're saying don't take any money out of DA to reduce taxes, and instead take it out of general ag.
Instead of moving it like L-shape, move it down to DA, then use it to reduce taxes, you're just going straight across the line and using it from general.
Now I know what you're trying to say.
Thank you.
Does anybody else get it though?
Yeah, because you're just moving it up.
Yeah. But
So
you-
if we scratch the DA 100,000
Yep,
and we move it to
Okay.
Fund A, okay? How does the money get from Fund A to Fund DA?
it
It
doesn't.
doesn't.
We want it to go to DA, that's the whole point of
Yeah,
this
we understand
exercise.
that, but
Because DA is gonna wind up with about 50 grand at the end of this year. If everything is probable, it may be over budget by the end of the year, which is, it is what it is. But starting in 2020, at least you'll have 100,000 head start in the DA fund. Could be.
No,
But if we don't take $100,000 out of DA to reduce taxes, then it's
I mean,
still in
because
there.
you're just putting it in and you're taking it out.
Well, when it says amount to reduce taxes 100,000, the 100,000 is not coming out of the DA fund, it's coming out of the A fund to be used in the DA fund to reduce taxes.
Oh, so you're showing the 100,000 has already have been moved. Okay, so that won't work.
Well, that's why it's called the 2020, not the 2019 projected fund balance.
okay.
The 2019 projected fund balance we're projecting $167,000 at the end of this year at DA, of which of that, 110 is locked up as a special reserve. No touchy. Okay, so if you take 110 out of the 167, you're left with $57,000, and the DA fund is 1231.19. If everything goes right.
Not having, I don't know if into 2020, if funds are needed, if there is a way to just do an expense in general, or an A to DA, that way, and do it after the fact.
Okay, so you were in this position for 30 years,
No, not quite, but, yeah.
almost. So I want, I'm requesting you, let's say you're back in the position. I would like to have you move $100,000 out of the general fund, and I'd like to have it, you put it in the DA fund. So whatever bookkeeping you have to do to accomplish that.
I wouldn't know, because in all the years I've been in that position, we never did this.
Remember, she didn't know you could do that.
I called the comptroller's office to find out how to do it, and this is what I was told. But I'm thinking, perhaps once we're in 2020, if the funds are needed, there might be, we could do an expense and take it from fund balance in general and move it as a loan, or not a loan, excuse me, a transfer to DA at that time. I think when we're setting a budget, it's different than doing the actual transfer in that year. Because you have to have the expense, you know what I mean, Bob?
Yeah, so you're basically moving this process to 2020.
I mean, if needed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the 2020 budget, so this movement of money would occur in 2020,
Right, so instead
Not
of doing it,
not 20.
instead of doing it tonight in anticipation of, oh my God, it's really low, perhaps we would wait until we get into that year and then find out, move it then just, make an expenditure on that line, take it from the A fund balance, and then move it as a transfer then.
So just doing what the controller wants, only we would do it in 2020 rather than 2019.
Right, and rather than putting it in this budget to be, because if we still have to put an expense line in this budget, then it's just gonna be out of kilter anyway, so.
And you just said you needed one.
We need one if we are gonna put it in this budget. If we're gonna do it next year, once we've got this budget set, and then we admit that we're over budget,
We're talking about next year's budget.
I know.
We're not talking about this year's budget. We're talking the 2020 budget.
I'm aware of that,
So nothing is gonna happen in 2019,
right,
right?
right. But if you're gonna put it to paper, you have to do it the proper way in this year to have it approved now. If you're gonna do it in 2020, then we'll take it as a new item at that time. That's,
We've hired a specialty municipal accounting firm to do an audit. And that firm has agreed that they will answer questions for us. So why don't we call them in the morning and say, what do you think about this?
Because you can't meet in a meeting between now and 48 hours from now.
Well, it'd have to be an emergency meeting.
Either that or we just sit here till we figure it out. I'm not opting for that, actually.
I've got his phone number, you can call him today.
Lock the doors and get coffee. Did you get email verification, written notification, or verification?
I spoke to her on the
from
phone. I think you're gonna have to take my word for it. But I think,
Did she sending you
no, in fact,
she won't commit to it, her answer?
my
I'm just
God.
asking, just.
I didn't ask her if she's gonna commit to her
Can you-
answer,
can you
Mark,
give
it's
me
getting
that?
a little bit ridiculous
Can
now.
you give, no, can you give me that in writing, please?
What,
Yes,
that I didn't get?
No, it would be the question to the controller's office,
Oh my God.
correct?
Mabel, why don't you call?
If the board would like me to call, then I'll make an effort to call.
I think that'd be great, personally. That takes this away. And if she can give you the written confirmation.
Did you receive my email from Thursday, Bob?
I looked on my phone, I do not have one from Thursday. Now, I don't know if you sent
Or
it,
Friday, whatever.
I looked.
I got it. I thought I replied to you.
I looked back far
You
enough.
did reply to me, yes.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Randy, did you get,
I will bring it.
Yeah, I looked and I did not see one.
that's why actually.
I got several from Dan, but
You should have a copy of the proposed adopted budget. That's when I sent it out. I believe it was Thursday.
Yeah, I did respond to that because I asked you to clarify it.
Correct. I got all that.
And then on Friday, I called the comptroller's office and no one was available to speak to me till today.
You wanna call our brand new spiffy accountant?
sure, why not? Worst case, think you could.
In the meantime, what are we doing about the chamber money?
It's not too late, so.
Are we going back onto the chamber money while we're waiting on the phone call, just to verify that?
Well, I stand by the $1,000 for the change.
And I'm good with the 2,500.
Mike, what are you doing with that?
I'm good with 1,000. I'm good with that.
Bob?
Yeah, I went back to the 31st one, 31st of October.
You don't have a copy of your
I
budget?
do
the
not,
adopted
I'm
budget,
sorry.
The proposed adopted budget.
I don't know why, because I've gotten other ones from you. Of course, we all know that my internet has not been the best.
Bob?
I'm
We
sorry.
just brought up the subject about, while you're waiting for whatever we're waiting for, about the chamber. Mike and Nancy are okay with the $1,000 being given to them for the request for 2,500. Christina's fine with the 2,500. They would be going from a $33,000 budget to a 35,500.
I don't think I would be happy with 2,500.
Mike and Nancy are agreed upon on the 1,000.
I could go, I don't think I could go to 2,500, but I think I'd be able to go more in my mind. To maybe 1,500 or something like that. But for the sake of, Anybody else have a feeling?
Yeah, we'll probably do 15.
Mike?
Mike, 15, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay, I'll go along.
excuse me, Chris?
I'll go along.
Okay, so that's gonna be changed in the budget line, which is 6410,402.
Page 3.
Getting confused with
Yeah, it was 5 of the old one. It's page 5.
Publicity.
Yep. On the old one we had the other day was page 5 of 18. But that was single, it wasn't back to back. So it's-
You didn't get any response?
I didn't call, I thought you were gonna call.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was.
So is that passed, are we,
I don't know how to express this to her.
I don't know, but I don't know how to express it to you either. Good work.
it's actually, the one that Mark handed out tonight is on page 4 about the publicity. Just so we can get this moved.
Oh,
Is that-
yeah.
You win,
5 in the morning.
I guess.
What's that guy's name?
Will Reynolds.
Does he have another number or just a cell number?
He's got the office
Got
number.
the office one.
Oh, home and mobile I've got.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I would try it, why not? It's not
By his
late.
home?
Well, his home up here, I have the number for that. He's probably not here, but it's worth
Can we,
trying.
after changing the chamber amount, can we adopt the budget pending on that $100,000?
You mean where that ends up?
Right. I mean, once you make the change to the chamber, I mean, can it not be passed as is pending on
I don't
moving
see
of that
how
up?
we could.
Excuse me?
I don't see how we could. We gotta, I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm with you insofar as I'd like to be able to do that.
I mean, it is what it is for the money. I don't,
Well, the other thought is, you know, we have a budget officer to give us guidance. And during the many years that you were our budget officer, Nancy, I don't think anybody ever gave you a hard time about your recommendations. So I think I'm
I
inclined to,
I also didn't do anything quite as dramatic as this. Everything was very straightforward and transparent.
Well, you,
May I make another comment while you're trying?
sure. I've had no success on the call anyway.
I did prepare some notes to go along with the budget for your perusal, recommendations. And you notice the first one I put on here, consider adopting a formal written fund balance policy prepared by the budget committee to aid in sound financial planning. I highly recommend that the board undertake that consideration or that recommendation.
I can't believe we don't have one, if you wanna know the truth.
Well, I think we're pretty much always just going on what the recommendation was.
And arm in arm with that is also please consider strongly adopting a formal written multi-year financial and capital plan to aid in future budget preparation.
That's fine. Makes good sense.
I'm not picking on Randy, but case in point, you know, we have the truck issue all of a sudden.
Bless you.
That's coming out of the blue. And I think with a better plan in place, we may be able to plan for that better. Not just setting aside a reserve, but actually do some planning. Do a 3-year plan, do a 5-year plan.
Well, I think we have with the trucks
Don't you do that?
to,
Large trucks, we started that. We used to at one point in time do every 2 years, these smaller trucks, if you remember right.
right,
We tried to get away from that and go to 4 years. Now we're paying the consequences of when we don't have that money set in there every 2 years. Some of the, per se, this one is not just a pickup truck. It's an in-between. So this was never thought of, it was never brought into the scheme of things. In the 4-year plan, our pickup trucks will be replaced. But this is not one of the pickup trucks. It's also not one of the large trucks. It's kind of like the loader, the grader, other things.
But it probably doesn't have a life much more than the pickup though, right?
Correct, it does not.
If I remember correctly, you had that truck scheduled for replacement next year anyway.
Correct.
In your
Because I-
inventory.
In my inventory list that I give every year.
No, we got it last year, we didn't
Yeah,
get it
we didn't
this
get
year.
one this year, sorry. Has not hit the
But I figure every
timeframe.
2 years is pretty good. So, you know, there is a certain amount of planning, but I think that, I'm with Mark, I've been saying since before I ran for the office, that we need to have a 5-year plan. And it's gonna take somebody a lot smarter than me to put something really good together, because I'm not really great at finances, it's something that I have to really work at. But on the other hand, I'm willing to put the time in and struggle with it some. But we definitely need to do something like that, and then your truck wouldn't have fallen through the cracks, you know? There's
Well,
and I
we
suppose,
repaired it
Right,
under normal conditions,
right.
just couldn't get parts. So that was kind of
that's true.
complicated things. So where we're at with the budget, what do we need to do to have an emergency meeting Wednesday? That's the 20th, correct?
I have to post it on my shadow box and have to notify the newspaper.
Okay, well, I think we ought to do that, so. We'll take a resolution, or just
A motion. What time Wednesday were you thinking?
yeah, I'm not sure I can make it.
Oh,
well, in theory, I have a meeting Wednesday night. So,
Yes, you do.
and it's an Indian Lake, so,
Yeah, can't make it Wednesday.
I don't know, is there any chance we would get the answers we're looking for by tomorrow night or not?
I don't see why not. We can call our accounting firm, we can look at previous rulings in the Office of the State Comptroller, which would be in writing. I can take a closer look at town law regarding this.
If you can do those two things, I'll try to take care of this tomorrow. You call the attorney, or the
Okay.
accountant. Mark, would you be willing to call the controller's office?
Yeah.
So,
Nancy, who do you have contact?
So I'll look and see what I can find. in
Leslie in Glens
finance law and
Falls
town law.
office.
Bob, you're gonna contact the,
I'm gonna contact Will.
Will Reynolds. And Christine, what are you doing?
I'll go back to town law and do a little bit more research, because I know where the law is that says you can do this interfund transfer,
Yeah.
A to A and B to B,
Okay,
but there's probably a lot more there.
okay, so what time you wanna pull this meeting together, Mom?
Well, you have court tomorrow night, so probably 5.
Okay,
Is that
fine.
work, Mark?
If I'm back in
Nancy?
time, I'll be there.
Where?
I have a meeting in Saratoga tomorrow afternoon. I'll try to be back in time.
Okay.
So am I putting this down as a special meeting to adopt the 2020 budget?
Yep, and that's, in theory, would be the only action that would be taken at that meeting.
I'm pretty sure I can be there.
And Mark, you can make changes on that chamber too for tomorrow? That was accepted, is that accepted at $1,500?
Yeah. 1,500 on that, on the chamber.
Set at 25.
Yep,
I'm looking for that.
So we have a
I printed
plan,
out that law that you sent.
we have a plan then?
Sounds like it.
Okay. We have transfers. Probably buried in somewhere.
but that's the agenda.
Does everybody have one?
You got one?
Yeah, I do, it's on there.
I have one of them.
No, I don't have one.
Here you go, Dave.
Oh, thanks.
They look pretty straightforward,
Yep.
mostly from contingent.
Yeah, I don't see anything that looks abstract. Questions, anybody?
I need a motion for that. I'll move that we do those transfers.
We have a motion by Nancy, second.
Second.
Second by Mike. Questions? Concerns? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else under new business that,
The only thing that I would like to mention is that during our budget workshop meeting, there was no support for changing the justices' salaries and compensation, and there was no support for changing the animal control officer salary. So, just because those things have been brought up in the past, I thought we ought to update people.
They're being capped, is that correct?
Yeah, capped.
we can talk about?
I misspoke, thank you.
Anything else under new business? Motion to pay bills.
So moved.
Chris, second.
I'll second.
Nancy? Do we want to talk about that?
Oh, the senior center one. Yeah.
I don't think we can do anything with that at this, based on what we have to look at. I understand what they're
Right.
trying to do, but I don't think we
I
can.
think we need to establish if this has happened in the past.
Debbie said that she's looked and she.
I went back into my minutes and I didn't see where we
She looked in the
reimbursed
minutes. I
them.
think we need Kathy to look in her
Okay,
allocations.
You know, Neil is here because it was stated that Neil permitted that in the past.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Neil and Betsy might know. Pauline Slack has submitted a voucher for unused money on the senior bus trip line. And she says that these unexpended funds have been released to the senior center at the end of the year in the past.
Not to my knowledge.
But you agreed with her
Nancy?
Wednesday.
No.
I agreed with what she said, but when we looked in the minutes, it was never put into motion. That never was
Do you
carried.
Remember this?
No, I don't remember us ever paying
No, I
them.
don't, but, you know,
Maybe because of a canceled bus or something?
yeah,
like that?
Yeah.
they didn't use 2 trips, so they would like us to transfer the money that we didn't give to company A to give it to them.
Give them directly.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
You were
to-
you were there the whole time? I don't
yeah,
remember this.
I don't remember that, and to me, it doesn't make sense to do that.
I would question whether you could take appropriated money to use mine. I mean, these are.
Maybe she's
designated funds.
confused with something else, I don't know,
Could be.
but,
Could be, but designated funds, those bills, we would always get, as a board, we would always get a copy of the actual people who went.
right,
Right,
And
Still
then
do.
accompanying
Still do.
Brown coach bill, and after the board reviewed them, then we would, next would pay them, or Debbie would pay them.
the payment went to Brown Coach.
But, yeah, we never would cut money back to them, not to
No,
know.
what she questioned me, and I said I did remember the conversation, that they were told that the money was theirs to use, which I
Right.
assumed was about the bus trips, what kind of bus trips they went on, or shopping trips.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly
Right.
what the discussion was.
We actually sort of, because they're independent and we did not want to overstep, we would chide them to do other things
Encourage
instead of
them,
just shopping
yeah.
malls. Take them to Proctor's or take
Proctor's or
them
whatever,
to,
right.
but they were all activities that they could discretionary on their board, which they had one, which they could spend and then produce those bills. Just handing over cash.
I know, it doesn't seem,
I'm not a numbers person either, but that one, I don't think would pass the smell test.
Well, there's nothing on
Can I
this.
say something?
In public comment.
Everybody else seems to be thrown into this. I was at that meeting when it was discussed, and the thought that was thrown out there was if the seniors cancel a trip for one reason or another, at the end of the year, that money, they could use it for whatever they wanted. And it was said at a town board meeting, and if you don't remember it, then somebody ought to have it on paperwork, but it was said at the meeting that the money was appropriated to the seniors, and if they didn't use it for a bus trip, they could use it for whatever they needed it for.
But I think the intent was to, if they wanted to do something else, not just to get the money into their,
Another cultural thing for the seniors at large, right?
Could use it for whatever they needed. That was what was said at the meeting, and you could call Pauline a liar if you wanted to.
well, I'm not saying she's a liar.
No.
No one's doing that.
But if that's what the wording was, that it could be used by the seniors for whatever they needed.
do you remember if there was actually a vote on that?
I don't. Like I said, it was explained at the meeting, and
well, Kathy could do a search.
We'll
on-
let Kathy do a search.
Right, on Lake Pleasant senior citizens and just see if any money was cut other than the 3,500 each year.
Yeah.
And that should go back to like 2011, I think that system was purchased, so.
Okay.
but that's all it was. There was some question about the bus trips and stuff like that, and there was a few trips that people weren't going on, like in July and stuff like that, maybe 1 or 2 people. So they said, well, instead of
20 after, right?
paying for 1 or 2 people to
I'm
go
sorry I brought up
on
what
a
I
trip,
brought up.
if you cancel the trip, the money was there for you to use as needed, so.
Well, I think the only way to resolve it is do what you said,
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll research that. So,
so keep that out.
right, so, I don't think we have a vote on the bills, right?
I thought we
We have a motion in a second, I don't know if we have,
Chris and second by Nancy to pay the bills.
but we don't have, do we have a vote?
No.
Okay. All in favor of paying the bills?
aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Public comment?
On that budget that, you got A and then the other one was what? A and B or was it?
DA?
DA.
DA?
D,
D.
dog apple.
What's the D part of the budget?
Highway.
Highway,
Okay. Then the D part is village and town residents they pay the A part?
They pay both, they pay A and DA, both.
Okay.
they don't pay B.
Right.
Public comment? Roundtable? Nancy? Chris?
And the only thing that I want to bring up is, that thanks to Jeanette Barrett's efforts, Specular and Lake Pleasant have been put on Verizon's 2020 build plan. And they claim that they plan to improve our service in two ways. One is by raising the tower by 15 feet. I don't know how they can do that because they don't own the tower, but this is what they say. And the second is adding a number of small cell towers to the area through cooperation with DOT. And that information came from Jeanette's pestering the New York State Assistant Secretary of Economic Development, which got on Verizon's case, and then Verizon called her. So there's where we stand on cell phones supposedly.
So maybe we'll file the paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Mike? Andy? Bob? Any reason for executive session? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Is there a second? Second, Mike? All in favor?
Aye.
So that-
5 o'clock tomorrow.
Christine, can you just
Thank you, Mark.
make a copy of that for me tomorrow, bring that in tomorrow, just so I can get that, what you just said about the tower?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
I'll email it to you.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate that.
Then you can just cut and paste.
Thank you very much.
Yep, and I'll email you that resolution too, so you don't have to type that out.
Oh,
The pretty much pink one.
that's fine, yeah.
I got two
Thanks for
reams
coming,
of pink
everybody.
paper given to me.
Oh, I did.
You're gonna see a lot of that.
So we're gonna be seeing a lot of pink these days?
I should find, when I clean my mom's house out.
We give you a
Color pastel. God knows where I spoiled it when I brought it up.
What time
All
Wednesday?
right.
5 o'clock,
5
yes,
Chris,
tomorrow.
don't forget we gotta do this.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
not Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
And you're gonna make the change on that chamber one too.
And it's the town hall?
I'll let you look at that.
I'm assuming the town hall.
Oh, these guys is on the first.
I'm not a board member. Bob, the meeting for that budget meeting is tomorrow at the town hall?
Town hall.
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Okay.
What meetings do you have this week?
This week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so it's all peanut butter and jelly.
It's all peanut butter and jelly.
I think.
Oh, you got some? Perfect.
Do it the direct route and then.
Okay. I'm gonna go see if I can find some raindrops.
I think it's a perfect idea.
It doesn't have to be a budgetary.
Correct.